Oh, hello, hello. Welcome back to Karate Ramblings. I'm Kieran,
And I'm Brian.
and today we are talking about supplementary training. I keep on thinking I mispronounced the traditional Japanese name. Brian, could you remind us what
I,
that is?
I don't know either. Hojo Undo. So
Hojo
I
Undo.
saw,
We'll go with
which
that.
I think is actually supplementary training. I think is what it what it
Hmm.
what it means. So
Yeah, it is
um,
according to Wikipedia. So
okay, well we'll go with that then. Yeah.
yeah,
um,
and we're just talking today about how it is, probably how it's developed, and why it's relevant, and everyone needs to do it.
yeah, basically, yeah, yeah. So should we talk through some of the traditional tools first, and
Yes.
what you could use in modern equivalent?
Yep,
So
absolutely. So, traditional tool, which I showed you before we started, is the Chi Ishi. Now, that, for those of us that are looking on YouTube, looks like that. It is basically a stick with a weight, a round weight on the end. Ignore this extra part. This is a dumbbell. So they'd use that, swing it around, and they'd use it as various exercises to, I don't know, help strengthen their forearm. I'm guessing that would help slightly with the
forearms,
rest of their arm, but
wrists, I guess, forearms and wrists. Yeah,
yes,
I mean,
absolutely.
like I say, you've made a modern equivalent there. I did speak to somebody at yesterday's seminar, and he does those weighted club exercises.
Okay.
Similar thing, I'd guess. You
Weighted
know,
club. Could you
yeah,
describe that?
well, it's just basically a big heavy club, like a baseball bat kind of club, but it's
Hmm.
heavy. And again, same again, you're sort of kind of swinging it for your wrists, your forearms, and your shoulders.
Oh,
So
I think I've
yeah,
seen that before. I think I know what you're talking about now.
yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, so
So
a lot of emphasis on your arm and your wrist. I suppose the thing is when you are punching something, if you want to strengthen that up as much as you possibly can, because if you've got thin, weak wrists, the moment you go to hit something that's a bit harder and resisting, you're likely to buckle or hurt yourself.
yeah, yeah, but I must say the Chiishi is not something I've ever. I think I may have used it twice in my lifetime. Because
Mm,
my old instructor, he made some. Basically, it's just like a concrete stick, pour your concrete in a almost like a plant pot with a broom handle. So he had various
mm,
sizes, and we did a few exercises a couple of times in the dojo. So it wasn't something that we did majorly, but it was
mm,
interesting at the time. But um, I have other ways of keeping in shape. So, it wasn't,
mm.
you know,
Yeah,
wasn't something I pursued.
absolutely. And you mentioned earlier another one which was like a giant block
Yeah,
with a handle on it.
it's like a stone block. Yeah, I think they call it a stone padlock or something like that. But it is,
Mm,
yeah, literally it's a block with
yeah.
yeah, like exactly what you described with a
Uh,
handle.
I'm actually good. I've got the Wikipedia page open. Sorry, our
Yeah,
information
yeah.
is sadly taken from Wikipedia, but this one's called Ishisashi, which is literally just a handheld weight in the shape of a padlock made of
Yeah.
stone.
And again, I think we sort of mentioned this. I think kettlebell is a model equivalent, isn't it?
Yeah,
I reckon. Yeah.
absolutely.
Maybe the purists and traditionalists are going to be slating us on this. Say, no, it's nothing like it. But I
No,
think,
you need it to be made of stone so you can get more calluses on your hands, instead of
yeah.
metal, of course.
But I think you could probably get the same effects from using the kettlebell for,
Mm,
for one of those exercises. I did watch a few Hojo Undo videos before we had this chat. So it looked like people were using this for punching exercise, like slow punching exercises, um,
mm,
using it the same as you would use a dumbbell for front shoulder raises for your deltoids. Um,
mm.
things like that. So it's
Tell you what, I've actually got an interesting thing here, which I only just realized I can grab. So you said that you can use these some tools as slow punching exercises. Well, I've
mm,
actually got these, which were recommended quite a while ago by Tommy Joe Moore. I bring them out occasionally. These are egg weights. So these are about a kilo each, little ring going through for your finger.
okay.
Slide that through, and then that'll add as weights that attach in your hands, and you can use them for your punching
Yeah.
practice.
I think actually, I mean, might get corrected on this as well, but I think if you use too much weight, particularly if you are throwing out punches, you're probably doing damage to your joints. So
Yes.
and you're engaging the wrong muscles if you're doing so. I think it is more conditioning rather than like what you've those smaller weights what you've got there, which will sort of add speed to your punches. But if you're
Mm,
going too heavy, then I think you're engaging your shoulder and your back muscle or your lat muscles.
yes,
um you know I mean, for punching you want to use your back muscles and your triceps, but um I think it's going to put strain on your joints going too heavy.
absolutely. That was something that I made well, I'll say I made a mistake of. I never injured myself, but I used to do that when I was younger. You hold dumbbells and try go heavier and
Yeah,
heavier and punch out
I
with
think
it.
we've all
Even
done
just
it.
like
Yeah,
yeah, even from traditional just step forwards Oyazuki or Yakizuki in traditional.
yeah,
And years later you find out, oh, that's not actually good for
yeah,
my
yeah,
punching power. That's horrible for my joints.
yep,
So
yep,
yeah, I think
yeah.
it just ends up being a that in I think someone just said that and everyone thought, oh, that's a cool way to show off.
Yeah, I
And
was
they
gonna say,
ran with
I
it.
think we've probably all done it because I know I've definitely done it, and it was perhaps see, I'm not going to say it was Bruce Lee, but you'd have seen somebody doing it in a film, in a movie at some
Mm,
point, or you wouldn't have just made it up. So I've
yeah.
I've I've definitely done that. Yeah, and it's like you say, it's not good for you.
No,
Um,
absolutely
so
not.
that's an interesting one. I've obviously the big one, Makiwara. You know,
Yes, yes,
um,
absolutely. The striking post made of straw and wood and whatever the hell else they could pack
again,
into
I
it.
mean,
So,
it is something I've see all of these traditional tools I've never used. So we're talking about them. In a while, we'll talk about what we do as a modern equivalent,
mm,
but as a traditional tool, I've never used it. But people who
mm,
do use it, say what a great tool it is. It gives you certain resistance on your punching. You can use it in different ways. You can hold a punch on it, and you can feel the feedback in the right muscles that you're using, and it's aligning your fist correctly as you're hitting and things like that. So yeah, it's not something I've used,
mm.
but like I say, people who use them swear by them, don't they? I don't know if you've got
Yeah,
any experience on it.
I haven't. I've heard just similar things to you. People who have used them say they're great, but I've also heard people who have used them say, there are equivalents, which would be your heavy bags, which come in all shapes and sizes. You got the big round ones, you got the ones that curve in, you got the big ones that just go up straight, and you even got like I've seen ones where it's like a box style thing with different angles on it, and they
Yeah.
attach that onto a wall, then you end up hitting that instead.
Different. Yeah, I
But
mean, I've got a bob dummy as well, so
yeah.
it's shaped like a person. I think,
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm curious though, how like tough would you say it is to hit the bob? Do you reckon you get much like um
So
feedback as you would with a Makiwara?
it's different. I think the body on a bob does feel like a body,
Mm,
but the head, it's got too much give, in
mm,
my opinion, on a bob. So if you want to throw some big bombs, you really want to be throwing it to the chest and body of a bob, to get that good resistance, that good feeling of resistance.
or you could staple a Makiwara to Bob's face. I'm just saying it will work one way or another.
With a picture of Bob on the front of the Makiwara.
Yes. Sorry, Bob, if you're listening.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so yeah, Makiwara. I did have years ago. I had a one that it hangs on a wall, so it's
Mm,
it's, it's kind of it's like a block, almost like a block of wood with some slats in it, which it had a bit of give. So it wasn't a traditional makiwara, and purists would say, "Oh, it's no good." It used to make a terrible racket when you used to hit it. So that was something that I had for a little while. I from my experience hitting it, I don't think it would have given me the same feedback as a traditional makiwara either. So
mm,
I didn't use it for too long. And the only other thing I had, which would have been it wouldn't have been anything like it, was just a hanging wall bag as well, which
mm,
I had filled with maize. Again, it was just something I would strike. But yeah, personally, I've got a heavy bag, a bob, and a speedball. So they're my
mm.
striking implements.
Yeah, man,
Um,
you've got modern day equivalents, which I
yeah.
think we'll talk about now. So, Brian, what would you say is your modern Hojo Undo,
Well,
whatever.
I mean, I've finished today actually. I've got a gym in my garage, like free weights that I use. I do have it's an adjustable kettlebell actually. I've not used it for a long time, but my main thing
Mm,
at the moment, my main go-to, and I've done it most of my life, on and off. I'd say more on than off. I go through phases, but yeah, weightlifting, so
Mm,
um, I think again, it depends on your goals in martial arts, but for me, you know, as an instructor, I'm 52 this month. I still want to be in shape. I want to be a role model to my students. So I don't want to be one of those fat senseis.
mm,
Apologies to any fat senseis out there. You probably still can kick ass, but I want to be a role model to the students. So I do my best to stay in shape. So yeah, weight training is my main outside of the dojo training. So,
mm.
and that is, I'm hitting those 3 times a week most weeks,
Yeah,
and then,
that is.
yeah, and I'm in a dojo 3 times a week. So, 6 training sessions a week, whether it's dojo or home dojo, if you like to call it that.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah,
so,
I would
so,
absolutely agree. That is absolutely a fantastic thing. Weightlifting. It is like this. It's become like a bit more of a modern trend these days, where people are trying to stay away from, not stay away from, but like people are doing less cardio and they're hitting the weights more often because that is something that is going to help you throughout your entire life. I mean, people get their cardio in different ways. Some people, it might just be walking 10K steps a day. Some people, it might be, oh, I'll go for a one once a week. It might be doing martial arts. But I do think weightlifting is something that is very popular now. And I think
yeah,
everyone should be doing some form of resistance training. I think two things. I think it was the NHS who recommends that you try and lift heavy shopping at least twice a week, just to keep your body in check, for the idea of actually being able to lift something heavy and put strain and resistance against your muscles and keep them alive. And
yeah.
two, I think there's this saying that goes around. It's better off being the oldest person in the weight room than the youngest person at the nursing home.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I was going to say, actually, we're talking about longevity and that. I believe it's good for your bone density as well, lifting weights.
Mm,
So, I think,
absolutely.
particularly as you get older, it's definitely a good thing to be doing.
Yeah, bone
Um,
density, your joints, your muscles, of course, and mental health. Can't getting a good pump off a good lift is like an amazing high. It's incredible.
yeah, yeah. I mean, there's days you don't want to do it,
Mm,
So, but then they're the days that you feel glad that you've done it.
mm,
But I mean, for me, I used to do, my training's varied over the years, and as I got older, I sort of lift lighter weights. So I'm, not concerned about being big. I just want to stay in shape. And I used to have focused, bit like the Arnie kind of split sessions, I suppose. On
mm,
Monday was chest and triceps, then another day was back and biceps, another day was shoulders and legs. So you'd have to be very disciplined to make sure you didn't miss a session. Whereas now, I just have a good um, all round workout on all the major muscle groups, pulling and pushing, basically. Pushing on the bench
mm,
press, pulling on the back, by barbell rows and overhead press. It's all the major exercises, major muscle groups. And that way I make sure, if I do miss a session, I aim for 3 a week. If I miss one session, at least I'm not missed a muscle group, because they've all
mm,
been done on each session. Um,
mm,
but yeah, so you mentioned cardio earlier as well. So that was something that I mean, obviously we get our training in the dojo where we're sparring and hitting pads and stuff like that. So there's a bit of cardio there. I used to do quite a lot of running and
mm.
cycling.
Yeah, I
So at one
remember.
stage, I think it was early 40s, I was doing sort of sprint triathlons and stuff like that. Again, it's
Ooh, very
just
nice.
trying to, yeah. I mean, the training was if I was doing proper triathlons, yeah, the training would have been mega. But
Mm,
sprints, it is. I think it was about a 25K bike ride, 1.5K swim,
mm.
and a 10K run. But it's crazy.
Right.
You get because these were sprints, and these were the ones that I done were pool based, so you do it in a swimming pool. But it was crazy getting out of a pool and then jumping straight on, running out of the swimming pool, jumping straight on a bike, getting off your bike, and then going for a run.
Mm,
It is mad. But again, it's just trying to stay fit and again be the best version of yourself you can be.
yeah.
And it's all helpful for your karate, right? So
Mm,
I think if you just, I think all of the old masters, all throughout time, anybody and the athletes now, everybody does supplementary training. No, an
Yeah.
MMA fighter doesn't just spar, doesn't just hit the pads. They're doing weights, they're doing their road work, running and stuff. So we're not elite athletes, but we still want to be fit people, don't we? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, personally, my supplementary training goes in like crazy spirals because I can never decide what I want to do. So I end up doing a little bit of everything depending on the week. So like yourself, I get at least give or take three martial arts trainings in, and then for at least for two, maybe three other days, I aim to get my 10K steps or at least 7 or 8 thousand a day. But in terms of my training, I do a big mix. So like you said, I absolutely swear by weight training. I've especially since lockdown, I've done a lot more weights. Not a massive lifter, mind you, but it's helped pack on some mass at least. And before that, I was doing tons and tons of calisthenics, which, fantastic. I would advise anyone who does calisthenics to, ease off the accelerator every so often because you can mess up your nervous system where I've overshocked my
All right.
system too much. Yeah. No, I just literally just forced myself to do too much because I was like, okay, got to make sure I get this many push-ups in, that many squats. And
Okay.
after
Yeah.
I don't know, 4 weeks, I was just like, I can't do anything right now. So it's like, okay, don't do anything at all. So it is about doing things in moderation. And one good thing that can also help, which I would highly recommend anyone to do, especially martial artists, is yoga. Now, I know yoga sometimes gets a bit of a weird reputation for being a bit culty, but then so does martial arts, so we can't really
Yeah.
talk about that. But yoga, it's good. There's a guy on YouTube called Sean Veig who does a lot of very like good intense yoga workouts, which I'd highly recommend people to look at. Sean Veig, Vigue. It's absolutely fantastic. They're good. They're all body. They work on your flexibility. Does work on your muscle endurance. A little bit of cardio, but big thing is it's really good to do something like that, especially like if you're coming back from an injury, because it's really good at rehab too. Because it really does like put the right amount of pressure on your joints, so it doesn't destroy you, but it gives you just enough to push you, which is good for when you're coming back after an injury. You can't just stop completely. You've got to keep going because if you just stop, then you'll let the injury fester instead of learning to live and work with it.
Yeah. So that's something that as I've got older, or as I'm getting older, I need to work on more. Is the keeping flexible. So
Mm,
I can still do reasonable height kicks, but nothing like I did in my youth. So, and it's like the old saying, isn't it? Use it or lose it. So, the less I was doing it,
absolutely.
to training and stretching more when I was younger, I don't stretch as much as I do now I'm older. So I have just started now in between on the days that I'm doing weights, trying to get some stretching on those days as well. So either in
Mm,
between sets or at the end of the session, I'm trying to get some stretching in. Just it's almost like micro sessions. So, but
yeah.
again, micro training is better than no training, right? So it's better.
No, absolutely. You do get moments where your training does sort of like collide with each other, as in they don't complement each other. So if I, for example, do like a heavy leg day on a Sunday, and then
Yeah.
next day I've got karate, and I can't lift my legs because I'm still hobbling from the day before, yeah, it's not
Mm.
exactly helpful. Or if I another one was if I was doing a lot of weights and then I realized, hang on, my legs are now getting a lot stiffer. I can't do yoga as good because my legs are stiffer, I can't move as much, then you do get moments where it does work against you. But this is the key thing is like moderation and having a main training goal. Like you can't be
Yeah.
the best at everything. You have to do a bit of other things, which is why it's your supplementary training. For us, our main training is our martial arts. That's the big one. Everything else
Yeah.
needs to complement that. If they don't complement that, then this has got to go. It's got to change.
Yeah. And I must say, through a fair amount of weights, my shoulders are really tight. So any shoulder
Mm,
locks, they come on really quick. So if somebody's got me in a Kimura or Americana, figure four, whatever you want to call it, that just comes on so quick, just because I've
I'm
got
going to
no
keep a note of
flexibility.
that.
Yeah, no flexibility there at all. Yeah, um, but yeah, so like I say, it can have its downsides as well, but I think there's more positives than negatives, really.
Oh,
So
absolutely. I mean, it's a good thing just for your body and for your mind, any kind of like extra training and extra exercise that you can get, it helps to like lower blood pressure, um, cholesterol, keeps your heart and your lungs healthy, keeps your body alive, like you said, you lose it or use it. If you don't use your muscles, then they will, shrink and they won't be as strong. And flexibility. I mean, I know we mention him every so often, but Peter Constantine, who's in his like early to mid 70s, he can kick well above his head and kick with an
oh,
absolute thud
he's
that would
amazing.
knock
Yeah,
anyone out.
yeah.
Yeah, I know he has
That's
got
yeah.
a bionic hip now, but
He
still,
does. Yeah, even with
I
his
think he just got. I think he was kicking, went to surgery. As soon as he woke up, he was like, "Okay, where's the pads?" He went back straight
yeah.
to it. I'm sure.
Yeah, he's phenomenal, phenomenal kicker and striker as well. Yeah, but
Yeah.
yeah. So we sort of basically mentioned this earlier when we talked about the Makiwara. So my modern day equivalent, which was a godsend in lockdown.
Mm,
I was using it daily, more or less. When we was forced to stay indoors and we couldn't train with partners. Don't use them as much now because we're sort of doing pad work, kick shields, and sparring a lot in the
mm.
dojo. But yeah, I got the heavy bag, which, like I say, was an absolute godsend in lockdown. Um, I don't know why I don't use it as much at home. I suppose just limited time, really. Time's a factor, but it's always there if I want to use it. It's always there if I need it. So the bag was a good tool. I don't think it's anything similar to a Makiwara, so it's
Mm.
different, but you're still able to, you're getting your shots in. I think if you want to punch hard, if you want punching power, you have to hit things. You can't
Yeah,
get punching power just by punching thin air. So if a
absolutely.
majority of your striking's done in air, then you know you you might be surprised when you actually hit something that
Yeah,
it doesn't work.
absolutely. Absolutely. A problem, if you hit nothing, you're gonna get used to hitting nothing. The moment you have to hit something that's got a bit of mass, you're gonna hurt yourself. Your wrist is not aligned, your shoulder's not correct, you've not thrown your hips in properly,
Yeah,
and you just simply aren't conditioned like physically either. What's an interesting one there is, Brian, is that obviously you said that you haven't got the time to hit your heavy bag. Well, that's because you're using that time to hit the weights. You can hit
yeah,
things
exactly.
when you're at
Yeah,
training.
yeah.
We haven't got heavy bags at training, but we've got big kick shields, we've got heavy tie pads. I mean, you've got those
Those
absolutely
twins, right?
epic
Yeah,
the
concrete tie
twins tie
pads.
pads that weigh what
Yeah. I
two
think about
kilos
2 kilo
each?
each. Yeah, yeah,
2 kilos
yeah.
each. These are
So
leather tie pads that I don't know how they are, but they're in great condition, and
they're a workout just holding them. Yeah,
they do
yeah,
feel like concrete slabs.
yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah, no, they're absolutely legendary to hit. You get the power by learning to hit big things. I don't think not kick shields, focus mitts are there much for power. They're more for targeting. But
Just speed. Yeah, speed and
yeah,
targeting.
but with
Which,
the heavy pads to hit, you can
yeah,
give them a good whack all day.
I was going to say targeting. That'll take me to the Bob dummy then. So, um, like I said earlier, hitting the torso is got some really good feedback.
Mm.
But then if I want to target techniques, if I was doing like some World War II combatives with my tiger claw, I can sort of focus on going to the eyes, or you got around the neck area and the throat. So the Bob was really good for that kind of. So you can sort of visualize a lot more on the Bob dummy. So
Mm.
I suppose that's the advantage of that over a heavy bag, is that visualization. You got a target there that you're aiming for certain. It doesn't move like a person, which then would take me to my other sort of supplementary training, which would be the speedball, which again
Mm.
doesn't move like a person, but it hits back. So speedballs were good for that. I found that was probably my favorite bit of kit during lockdown, was the speedball. Probably because
Yeah.
I learned to use it during lockdown, whereas
Mm.
previously I would just whack it and it would whack me back. then and I just thought, I hate this thing. I can't use it. I can't hit it. But I gradually sort of learned to use it. And it's good. Like, so this is another supplementary tool now, which is one you probably wouldn't think of, is video. Okay, so
Interesting.
I videoed. So if I watch myself from when I was training on the speedball in lockdown, and I've seen myself use it now, I can see the progression, and I can see the mistakes I was making. So that's a really good tool. And I think when I was competing in kata and stuff like that, again, videoing yourself, your worst critic, aren't you? So it's actually a good tool. And we video a lot of stuff for YouTube for
Mm.
my channel and that, and I see things that I videoed a couple of years ago. So that's a good training tool. The mobile phone and the camera. So never really thought about that before this conversation, but it
Yeah,
it certainly is.
absolutely. And just to touch on what you said a second ago, you have your bob up for your targeting. You're thinking about your tiger claws, your chin jabs, and all that, and you're thinking about your tactics. I suppose that's another one we don't always consider. That's not physical; it's mental. You've got to. It's why you read like the I don't know, the Rory Miller books and things like that, because you are, if you're not talking about like your martial arts side of training, you are still thinking about your self-protection side of training, which is a lot more training yourself to think as well.
Mm. Yeah, yeah. I suppose I have to agree with you there. Yeah, it's just that, and that's training your mind. Just reading, isn't it? Yeah. So
Yeah,
reading, watching.
reading, but also taking things on board and applying them in your everyday life is
But that is
also
that is
yeah,
supplementary training as well, isn't it? Yeah, taking on
yeah,
knowledge through your books and stuff.
yeah,
Yeah, your soft skills, I guess.
yeah,
But
absolutely.
yeah, so I was on that speedball, just saying about it hits back. So that was that. Like
Mm,
I said, that was definitely one of my favorite tools. I got it during lockdown, and it became one of my favorites. So it worked your hand to eye coordination and your head movement. So I got better at moving around just through that tool. So
mm,
if I was going to recommend one piece of striking equipment, because it's probably the cheapest out of all of them, would be a floor to ceiling speedball. That's
mm.
yeah, most frustrating till you get used to it as well.
Yeah, no, I can imagine. Absolutely. It's a very unique one as well, because I've seen the speedballs where they hang off like a little
Yeah,
platform, but yours is like
the floor to
floor to
ceiling. Yeah, so
ceiling.
it's quite random. It sort of darts all over the place, and like I
Yeah,
say, it comes
yeah,
back towards you. So it hits back.
when I saw it in your videos, it looked like a basketball trap between two bungee
Pretty much,
cords.
that's pretty much what it is. Yeah, more or less. Yeah, yeah. The ones
Mm,
that hang from a platform that they're only suspended from a piece of wood, I guess.
mm,
Um, I'm assuming that's just again your hand to eye coordination, your hand speed. I can't imagine what else apart from hand speed that would be for really. So anybody
mm.
know? Drop it in the comments if you use one.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. But I think that's also a part of, training your mind to see when things are coming and
mm,
to react accordingly as well.
yeah. So I don't know how long we've been talking.
Well, we've
I
got
don't know if
just
we've
under 10 minutes.
I was going to say I think we've covered a lot of the traditional. There's probably more actually because there's one traditional. We're going back to the beginning now, but one of the traditional ones. If you've ever seen this, it's almost like a big safety pin. It's like, but it's
Safety
massive.
pin.
It's like a massive steel tube. So it's sort of yeah. Um, Sometimes they're slightly sort of rectangle kind of shape, but they're rounded at the ends rather than perfectly rectangle. And it's a steel
Okay.
tube. If I can, I might be able to Google it quickly. But
Mm,
it's basically a big, heavy steel bar, and I know people use that for forearm conditioning, neck conditioning. Um,
okay.
yeah, it's not something, I've ever used. But that's an interesting one. That I don't think there's any sort of modern equivalent that you would use.
No, it definitely sounds like a unique one. I mean, the thing is, on Okinawa, they would have used, tools and things that would have been, I suppose, native to what they do or what they know. I mean, like in they always had like forms of sports, and I'm guessing they would have had forms of like exercises and things like that to do. So they would have used, what they already would have had. You know, I doubt they would have created too
Yeah.
many things just for the sake of karate. They probably just would use what they already had. which
Trying
makes
to
the
see
most
it.
amount of
Yeah,
sense.
I can't see what. Can't find it quick enough. I should have made a list of them. Oh, there's
That's all right.
the shoes though, isn't it? The Gator, the heavy
Yes,
weighted
the
shoes as well.
Tetsu Gator, yes.
Yeah,
Iron clogs worn like
yeah.
sandals gripping your toes. I mean,
My
that
modern
does
equivalent
sound,
is my Crocs,
oh God,
which
don't
everybody
even.
hates.
Don't. We will burn them before the year is out, I'm sure. But
That's
yeah,
terrible for
they
the environment. We've got to keep them going.
yeah, exactly. Oh God. But yeah, the iron shoes will be an interesting one to grip your toes. I mean, I don't know how strong you can make your feet. That does sound like a good. It could
I
be a
think
way to
it's
give you arthritis.
probably,
I don't
yeah. I
know.
mean, because I did watch a video of somebody using them and they was doing like knee lifts, doing kicks and stuff like that. So it's as much for hip and leg strength. I think, yeah, one of the things that I
Interesting.
saw them doing. Yeah. So,
Okay, I
yeah,
suppose so.
bit
That
of
could
hip
work.
and leg strength by the look of it from what I
Hmm.
saw. Yeah.
Yeah, and
So that was interesting.
there's another one that I want to mention quickly. It is the nigiri game, which is called the gripping jars. So imagine
Yeah.
like you got the jars filled with like sand or whatever. You hold them at the top with your fingers to try and improve your grip
Your
strength,
grip
which I
strength.
suppose would be the modern equivalent of like one of those hand grippers, which I have in the other room, but I'm not going to get now.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. I've got one actually as well. And grip strength is really important for any sort of
mm,
grappling art, isn't it? So,
yeah,
in fact,
absolutely.
we was on a seminar yesterday. Yeah, it was yesterday. Seems so long ago. Um, where one of the drills was, we was playing for grips, and then when A or B was called, A had to escape while B had to keep hold of them. So it was all about grip strength then, So
Yeah, I
uh,
got a nice like three finger grip on the bloke's sleeve, so he was desperately trying to flap my hand away, and he was just going just swinging his arm around like, "Yep, I'm not letting go like this, mate. You got to get rid of the hand first."
yeah, yeah.
But that
I
is
I cheated on that. I just give Luke a good edge, World War II combative's edge of hand blow, or karate shuto. I gave him a shuto to his arm,
you
and
gave him
then
a shooter
I
to his
found out.
arm
I found out afterwards that we weren't allowed to strike at that point, but we
afterwards.
were told earlier that we could cheat. So I'll say I was cheating.
Yeah, that was Ian's session, not Tommy's session. Tommy didn't
Yeah,
say anything about cheating, but Ian did. So
I
yeah,
think you
absolutely
could
take
probably
that.
take it as a given in any of Tommy's sessions. You could cheat. So we've started to drift towards that. So we're normally at the end of our chats, we talk about what we've done and what's coming up, don't we? So,
Yeah.
so we might as well talk about that. So, because you say we've got around about 10 minutes left.
Well, now we're close to
Oh
six
no,
minutes on the
six.
dot.
Oh, there you go. So 6 minutes to talk about past and future things.
Mm.
So go on.
What have you been on?
Yesterday's event.
Yep, yesterday's event was a session that was taught both by Tommy Joe Moore and Ian Abernethy. So it was a good mix of different things. There were some fun warm-up drills from both of them. Tommy's was largely about like how do I describe his? He had a few different things. So it was part of like restrictive sparring, which I think you've done before in class, where you are in a position of either A, disadvantage, or B, unusual position in which you won't start with when you're dueling off against each other in Kumite,
And
or
they were micro sparring sessions as well. So they literally last
mm,
10 seconds or 15
yes,
seconds. So
because
you're
that's
in a
how long
yeah,
you want a
yeah.
fight to last less than that ideally, but
Yeah,
you
in
know,
a compromised position like a headlock or a double lapel grip or pinned up against the wall, and yeah,
mm,
you got 10 seconds to deal with that situation. I think that's really good training that was, wasn't it?
yeah, absolutely.
Um,
And I love the just to quickly mention one of the warm-ups was wrestling. It wasn't
yeah,
wrestling, it was wrestling. So
yeah,
he would call out a body part like your wrist, your elbow, shoulder, hands around the neck, and you'd have to fight to get that position.
two
Two
hands
hands on
on,
one thing.
yeah. And I think, like you said, when you got two hands on one thing, you kind of own it, don't you? If I've got your
Yeah.
wrist, it's mine. If I've got two hands on your arm, on your upper arm, on your triceps, mine. Two hands on your knee, two hands on your ankle.
Mm,
So yeah, it was good. It was real good fun, and he brings a lot of energy to the room, doesn't he? So he's if
absolutely.
anybody, I mean, I think on a previous podcast I talked about the World War II combatives instructors course that I've done with Tommy. He's a really good coach. I went to Denmark recently as well to
Mm.
go and train with him over there. So it wasn't just for that. I was visiting my friend Jan over there as well, and it
Sensei
coincided.
Yan.
Yeah, the Dragon Man. So it coincided with that visit on purpose. but but yeah, he's such a good coach. Real energy to the room, and got some really great ideas and good sparring drills, warm up drills, training drills. So if you ever get a chance to train with Tommy, I would highly recommend it. So on
Mm.
that seminar as well, we can't neglect Ian. So
Oh
Ian
yeah.
taught some very good drills as well. So having trained with Ian a lot, most of it I've seen before, but it's always fun to revisit and fun to do. And
Mhm.
Ian is a good storyteller as well, isn't he? So he'll
Oh, Ian,
he's
the moment he starts talking, he just like everyone just stops and listens in with whatever he's got to say. Yeah, he's got some very good explanations, be it historical or modern or practical, for things that he's done, or the way he runs his class and different ways people can think of things. Like one thing that he said that I thought was absolutely fantastic was said, okay, he basically split his class up into groups of people that are going to fight each other, and I think it said it was one bloke. The entire time, the moment he said that, he hid outside the room
yeah,
so
that's
you
it,
didn't
yeah,
get involved into the fight. And it's like, yeah, that's the best thing you could have ever
perfect,
done. Just
yeah,
like removed yourself entirely. And it is, I do think it is a credit to Ian how he does encourage people to realize there are ways around these sorts of things and to be able
yeah.
to think your way out of these
I
things
think
as
his
well.
other one was it just starts random fights in in the club, doesn't he? So I think everybody trains with their if it's a particular class they're going to do, they'll have their sparring mitts on, and if they're doing kata, for example, any time during the lesson, you shout fight, and everybody just
Mm.
has a fight, which sounds great fun. And he said he's done it at random times when people are getting changed or when they're in the kitchen filling up water bottles. He did it at the end of the seminar yesterday, and he was ready to get up. He was up for
Yeah,
a
yeah,
fight.
well, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I was about
I
to
think he
kick
clocked you
Paul in
getting
the
up.
face.
So yeah, it sounded like a really good exercise and good fun to do. So yeah,
Mm,
that was brilliant. I'm not sure. I know something that I've got planned for January, which is we're training with another guy who's only down the road from us, a guy called Barry,
mm.
who runs the Sambo Club, Sambo and MMA, and he does a lot of self protection as well. So we've got that lined up, but it's not a public thing. It's just our club training with their club. So
Yeah.
I can't think of any events that we're going to before Christmas. I don't think there is
I
anything, is there?
don't think there is. I mean, we've got, I don't know, just over, but I have no idea how many sessions. I'm not going to bother counting, but yeah, we're stopping off for Christmas. I don't think we've got anything else planned
No,
until then, but
but
yeah, that'll be a good one next year.
I mean, it won't mean much to anybody, but I'm going to give them a shout out now. But two students from our club recently got their showdown. So, they started training at 6 years old and they're both 16 now. So my youngest, Charlie, and a
Mm.
young lad, Thomas. So, yeah, both 16, been training 10 years. So it took a lot of hard work, trained through a pandemic, and they both got their black belt. So, well done to them. That's,
Yeah,
I've got to
absolutely
say,
phenomenal.
as a proud dad and a proud sensei. So,
Mm.
so I think we're done. We've got less than a minute. So we'll
Yeah,
sign out, shall we?
that's everything. All right, guys. Thank you for listening in to another episode today. Always love doing these things. It's always a good chance to talk. You think of things you don't normally say, but here we go. Anyway, you can find me at Mackenzie Karate on Instagram, and over to you, Brian.
Brian Bates, Zanchin Karate. That's
All
it.
right, awesome, guys. Thank you very much for listening in, and we'll catch you on the next one. Us.
Us.